It is time for another edition of the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz, and on today's episode, we're going to start it right off talking about the NHL playoffs. The Pittsburgh Penguins coming into this NHL playoffs as the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, kicking off a series, the quarterfinals, with the New York Islanders, a rival in the Atlantic Division. And really the thing about this series, the Islanders are the 8th seed. Not a lot of people expected them to really battle the Penguins in this series. Many predictions coming in, 4-1, possible 4-game sweep for the Penguins. Well, guess what? This series has turned out to be quite an exciting one, and I'm going to get to it now, going over the first 3 games, with the third one wrapping up just about an hour ago. Coming into the series, Game 1 in Pittsburgh, you have Evgeny Nabokov, a goalie for the Islanders, who is the most experienced goalie in this entire playoffs, with over 80 games played in the playoffs. And then the second most experienced goalie in the playoffs, Marc-Andre Fleury, opposite him. So you thought that this would be a series pretty much depending on the goaltenders, because, as everyone knows, if you have a hot goaltender, that can win you a series. And in this game, Nabokov was anything but hot. He allowed 4 goals on 15 shots, was pulled in the second period, and it started off on the power play for the Pens about 4 minutes into the game. Bo Bennett, first shot in the playoffs, gets a goal. It was really a bad angle shot almost. He went in on the right side and was able to lift the puck up above Nabokov's shoulder on the short side. So Penguins go up 1-0. They continue it with a nice Pascal Dupuis goal. Nabokov came out to challenge to challenge Iginla on his shot. And then the rebound ran right to Dupuis. He stuffed it in the net. Penguins go up 2-0. And then in the second period, they get the third goal, a minute 19 in. Chris Letang, a power play goal. Nabokov had no chance of stopping it. And then Dupuis, another goal, a backhand goal this time. And at this point, Jack Capuano had just seen enough of Nabokov, pulled him out. He said that he was trying to get the team going, trying to lift them. Kevin Pouillon comes in. He ends up giving up another goal, and that would be the final score, 5-0. And like I said, I joked, when Tanner Glass scores a goal, you know something is going right for the Penguins, because he basically just threw it on net. It went through the 5-hole of Pouillon. It was a bad angle shot and ended up going in. And the Penguins dominated this game. 5 goals on 19 shots. The defense played stellar. Mark Eaton, 5 block shots in the first period. Penalty kill, killing all 4 penalties. The power play, 2 for 4. Fleury played a stellar game. It was his 6th career playoff shutout. And not much else you can say. Dupuis, 2 goals. Jokinen, Malkin, and Iginla, all 2 assists each. And then Doug Murray, another big contributor on D. 5 huge hits and then another blocked shot. And it was just a good way to start off the series. And based off one game, you're thinking, okay, the Penguins, this is going to be a pretty easy series for them. Well, not the case in Game 2. Early on, they had a lift. Crosby cleared to play early Friday morning. The fans felt energized. The players probably felt energized. And the game started off that way. Evgeny Malkin getting the first goal, 43 seconds in. Nabokov made a great first save on Malkin's first try. Then he got the puck back, got it in. It's the first time he has scored on Evgeny Nabokov. And then Sidney Crosby, the first game he comes back after injury, he always finds a way to contribute. He does just that, scoring a power play goal. There was a nice pass off of the glass by Iginla to Sid, and then Malkin started off that play by taking a shot near the top of the left circle, bounces off the boards to Iginla, then he passes to Sid, the nice power play goal to make it 2-0. Then the Islanders get one back on the power play. It went off Fleury's skate and kind of sneaked in, but then Crosby once again scoring. This time the assists were by Eaton and Dupuis. Nabokov, it was a lazy goal on his part because he made the save and then just shoved it right off his stick, the puck right to Crosby, and he should have freezed it. I mean, it was a rookie mistake, and Nabokov, he's a veteran. It was just a bad mistake. And it was a tight angle shot by Crosby, too, so let's give him credit there. So at the end of the first period, you're thinking Penguins are up 3-1. Well, by the end of the game, Dan Bosman would say, we were up 3-1, but it didn't feel like the score was 3-1. It probably felt like it was a tie game at that point, because in the second period, it started off with a huge momentum shifting fight. Kyle Okposo versus Matt Niskanen. Niskanen was bloody on, I believe, under his left eye, and from then on out, the momentum just carried toward the Islanders. Colin McDonald scoring to make it 3-2, and then Matt Martin getting a chippy goal. Islanders rushing to the net, getting it underneath Fleury. He couldn't make it back quick enough. The shot came right off the boards to tie the game at 3. And going into the third period, you knew it was going to be a battle to the end, and the Islanders killed off a 4-minute power play by the Pens. It started late in the second period, about a minute left of it in the third period. They just could not. They had a bunch of scoring chances. Nabokov made a lot of great saves, but they couldn't put one behind him. And then Kyle Okposo, who's been one of the surprising players in this series, gets the game-winning goal with about 3 minutes left to go in the game. And the Islanders tie up the series 1-1, get home ice advantage now. This game was a shock, to say the least, because it kind of was reminiscent of last year's playoff series against the Flyers, where the Penguins, they jumped out to a lot of leads in those games, then they just gave them up real quick where the defense played porous. And that was the case in this game. The penalty kill was outstanding again. They did give up one. They killed 1 of 4. But the 4-minute power play was the big thing that the Penguins should have capitalized on. They had a bunch of scoring chances. They just couldn't put one past Nabokov. If they would have got one past him, yeah, the Penguins probably would have came out with the victory. But the Islanders win it, and then they go back to the Nassau Coliseum with a 1-1 tie in the series. So now we go on to Game 3, which just finished up about an hour ago, and this game was one of the most exciting playoff games I've seen in a while for the Penguins, because the last year's series, all the games, yeah, they had their exciting moments, but the Penguins came out on the losing end with most of them. But in this game, the Islanders, something they did not do the first 2 games of the series, is get off to an early start. They get the first 2 goals by Casey Cizikas, his first career playoff goal, and then Matt Molson, who scored in the second game. They go up 2-0, and you're thinking, oh no, it's time for the Penguins to hit the panic button. But like Brian Engblom was saying during the game, he was in between the benches. He said that Bosma and the Penguins players, they looked calm. They didn't look like they were freaking out at any point. So what do? They end up coming back and score 3 goals in the first period. Iginla, a huge 5-on-3 power play goal. It was really a dumb penalty by Travis Hamonic. He pretty much grabbed Iginla's glove and pulled him back a little bit. They called it tripping. It should have been holding. But Iginla makes up for it by scoring the goal. Then Kunitz gets the second power play goal to tie it up. And then with about a minute to go in the first period, Pascal Dupuis, a nice backhand goal, kind of similar to Sid's backhand goal in Game 2. Penguins go up 3-2 now, heading into the second period. And you knew the Islanders, they wanted to start off the period good like they did the first period, and they did. They came out fast. The thing that would probably favor the Islanders in the series is their speed, and you could definitely see that in this game where, the Penguins, yes, they're the more veteran team, but as you know, speed is a great equalizer in hockey. And it started off with Michael Grabner, who had really a great chance to score on a breakaway, but Matt Niskanen had a huge poke check that forced an offsides that occurred late in that first period. And if they would have got that goal, the whole tide of the game would have been changed. So then we go to the second period, and it seemed that there always was a guy toward the end of the regular season who chipped in each different game, one of the newly acquired players. Brendan Morrow had his games, Jerome Iginla had his games, and even Jussi Jokinen. Douglas Murray, obviously a defenseman not known for his goal-scoring capabilities. He did score once for the Pens after they acquired him. But what do you know, Crankshaft finds a way to put it behind Nabokov with about 3 minutes to go in the second period to give the Penguins a 4-2 lead. And that was the score going into the third period. So you think, okay, the Penguins are up 4-2. On the road, a veteran team going against the Islanders who, First time to the playoffs for a lot of these players. You would think the veteran team would find a way to hold on for the victory. Well, about 5.5 minutes into the third period, Kyle Okposo, like I said, who's been the surprise player this series, gets a nice, I guess you could call it a mini breakaway, a shorthanded goal, something the Penguins did not allow that much in the regular season. Of course, once again, reminiscent of the Philadelphia series. They gave up a lot of shorthanded goals a year ago. Okposo gets his second of the playoffs, cuts the lead to 1, and then I remember tweeting this about midway through the second period. I said, it's kind of scary to think that they haven't really mentioned John Tavares' name at all, who could be the MVP of the NHL. 28 goals during the regular season. Did not score at all up to this point in the series, and what do you know? He finally puts a shot behind Fleury. It was a nice bad angle, wrist shot. Ties the game up at 4, and at this moment I was like, oh no, this is not good for the Penguins, because on the road in an atmosphere with the Nassau Coliseum where they haven't had a playoff game in over 6 years, the crowd really wanted to help these Islanders with the victory. They wanted to feed off of that, and fortunately for the Penguins, they were able to stave off a lot of good scoring chances for the Islanders to send the game into overtime. And in the overtime, Brian Straight committed the first penalty with about, I would say, 12 minutes to go in overtime. And it turned out to be cautiously, because Crosby, he's the best player in the game for a reason. He drew the penalty, and with a spinorama move, and it ends up that he gets the winning assist. It's a great pass to Chris Kunitz. Gets the shot in right above Nabokov's shoulder, gives the Penguins the 5-4 win in an exciting game, and now gives them the series edge, 2-1. Game 4 will be in New York, 7 o'clock Tuesday night, and really this game, and so far this series, has all been about special teams. Really, coming into the series, I said, if the Penguins were to lose any series in these playoffs, one of the big reasons would be their penalty kill. Well, their penalty kill is actually doing a really good job this series. They've only allowed 1 power play goal in 11 tries. So you think, okay, that'd be good. But they're getting beat in 5-on-5 even strength situations. And that didn't really happen a lot for them with their 15-game winning streak and toward the end of the season. I'm just surprised by that, because like I said, I didn't think that the Islanders had enough offensive power to match the Penguins, but so far early on, it seems like that they are going toe-to-toe with them. The Penguins' power play, though, on the other hand, is the equalizer. 6 for 13. Definitely one of the top power plays in the regular season, number 2. And right now, they're number 1 in the playoffs with their power play. And it's dangerous. I mean, when you have Crosby, Kunitz, Malkin, Iginla, Morrow, you have those types of players on the power play. Something's, it's just they're gonna end up finding a way to put it in the net somehow. And in this game, Crosby, 3 assists. Kunitz, the game winner, 2 goals and assists. Martin, Malkin, and Letang, all with 2 assists each. And on the Islanders side, Okposo with a goal and an assist. Here's the problem I can see happening in these future games for the Penguins in the series. They are being outshot badly by the Islanders. In this game, they were outshot 36-25. And in Game 2 on Friday night, they were outshot 42-33. The Islanders, not counting shots on goal, or the shots that were blocked, had a total of 79 shot attempts. 42 got on net. The Penguins are giving up way too many shots. I think the Islanders know that all they got to do is, get it to the net, and, maybe bounces will go their way, because that's what happened in Game 2. They were bouncing off the boards, getting in behind Fleury. That's what they got to do. And if they keep doing that, they're going to find another way to win maybe a few games more in this series. And another thing is the giveaways by the Penguins. In Game 2, I believe they had a total of 11 giveaways. The Islanders only had 2. That's going to be a huge stat to look at, because in today's game, the Islanders had 14, Penguins only had 8. So the Game 2, there was a lot of sloppy play by the defensemen. The Penguins, especially Evgeny Malkin, Sutter, Iginla, it seemed like they were playing with the puck too much, sloppy passes. They were just trying to do too much. They just weren't trying to, get the puck on net. And it really made up for, because Brendan Morrow, in this game this afternoon, he made a errant blind pass that gave Okposo the shorthanded goal in the third period, and that could have been killer if the Penguins would have lost this game. I guarantee you that would have been one of the main things to talk about, but luckily for them, they were able to overcome that and get the win in overtime. And other things to note in this series, James Neal left Game 1, I believe it was early on in the first period, and he did not return, has not played since, and the early inclinations was that it was in the second period. The early inclination was that it was maybe his concussion-like symptoms coming back after Travis Hamonic hit him during a 5-on-3 power play, but I heard some reports that it was something with his foot. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. He did skate before the game today, so he might be close to return. I would say if he were to come back, it wouldn't be until Thursday for Game 5 in Pittsburgh, but that's something to keep an eye on. Brooks Orpik has not played as well. The only other change in the lineup, Simone Dupre was in for Derek England in today's game because England had a couple of really undisciplined penalties in Game 2. So it would be interesting to see if Bosma sticks with Dupre from here on out in the series. But I mean, like I said, this series, I don't think the Penguins are going to win this in 5. I have a feeling the Islanders are going to get another game. Whether it'll be tomorrow or Game 5 in Pittsburgh, we'll see. But I think it was a good thing that the Penguins won this game because, your number 1 seed, you dominated the regular season. In the playoffs, you would at least want to try to win all your home games. And since they haven't done that, go out, win 2 in New York. And so far, they're halfway there. So I think they're definitely going to answer the bell. And we'll see. The power play is the great equalizer for this team. The Islanders are a young team. That's the thing. You don't want to have a repeat of what happened last year in Philadelphia. There were a lot of dumb retaliatory penalties that the Penguins committed. Malkin, Crosby getting frustrated so much. They can't get frustrated. I know the Islanders are going to try and make life difficult for them, but guess what? The Islanders haven't been there before. A lot of their players have not. The Penguins have. All the Penguins got to do, play the way they've been playing the regular season. Don't commit the dumb penalties. Have faith in your penalty kill because they've gotten the job done so far in the series. And, the Islanders are prone to make a mistake. I mean, they snuck their way into the playoffs, but they're a young team. And they have an MVP candidate, but experience is ultimately what will advance you further in this cup, I believe. And that's what the Penguins have. So they just got to play that way and hold on to get past the Islanders. Because, yes, they are a scary opponent. They are a very fast team. But the Penguins, with all the stars that they have on this team, they just got to find a way to dig down deep and compete in these games. They were able to come back and stave off that furious comeback by the Islanders to win the game in overtime. So we'll see how it goes on from here in Game 4 in New York. And now we're going to take a look at now the other playoff series going on in the NHL playoffs. And we start in the Eastern Conference with the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators. The series right now is tied up at 1. The Senators beat the Canadiens in Game 1. Canadiens came back and took the second game as it now heads to Ottawa. And in this game, I mean, it's just been rough for the goalies. Craig Anderson has lost a tooth. Carey Price has lost 2 teeth. It's a tough physical series. And, I picked the Canadiens to win the series. I still think they do. They'll come out with the victory and might go to 7 games, but just a great, hard-fought series between 2 Canadian teams. Then we get down to Boston and Toronto. Boston, a huge Game 1 win to open up the series. They beat the Maple Leafs 4-1. And then Phil Kessel, who was not really there in Game 1, comes back in Game 2, gets the game-winning goal to beat the Bruins. They win 4-2. That series is tied up at 1 now, heading back to Toronto. And then in the other series, the Rangers and the Capitals. I thought the Rangers were going to take this series, but the way it's looking right now, it's not looking that way. The Capitals have a 2-0 series advantage. Game 2 was it was killer for the Rangers. Game goes to overtime. Capitals win it 1-0. And in the game, it was in overtime. The Rangers, it was a bad break. I mean, they shot the puck out into the crowd. The refs called a delay of game that ended up getting Mike Green. He scored the winning goal, power play goal in overtime. Just a bad break for the Rangers, so they're going to have to dig themselves out of a 2-0 hole. I think it'll be tough because the Washington's playing at such a hot pace right now in the Eastern Conference. And then we switched over to the Western Conference. The Blackhawks took both games in Chicago over the Wild. Right now, Game 3 is being played as we speak. I believe it's a 1-1 game at this point. They're looking every bit as the dominant team in the West like they were in the regular season. Anaheim and Detroit. Anaheim took Game 1. Detroit took Game 2. They were up 4-0, and the Ducks came back and won and tied it up at 4 and went to overtime. The Red Wings were able to get the goal in overtime for the win. And then Game 3, I believe last night, was played in Detroit, and the Ducks take that, so they regain home ice advantage in the playoffs. They're up now 2-1 in that series. San Jose going up against Vancouver. They surprisingly took 2 for the first 2 games in Vancouver. So now they head back to San Jose for games 3 and 4, and they were one of the best home teams in the NHL during the regular season. So I think it'll be tough for Vancouver to try and sweep them there. Hopefully they can get 1, but even if they only get 1, I mean, San Jose still has a 3-1 series lead then if that happens. And then you have Los Angeles, the defending Stanley Cup champions, going up against St. Louis. St. Louis, at home, takes the first 2 games. It was pretty amazing. In the first game, they score in overtime after Jonathan Quick turns the puck over. Just a bad handling mistake by him when he left the net. And then in Game 2, Los Angeles, they score with just a little bit, St. Louis scores with just under a minute to go in the third period. You think the game's going to go to overtime, but no, St. Louis gets it. And now they have a 2-0 series advantage. But I believe that the Kings won late last night to cut now the series lead to 2-1. So I'm sure that series will definitely go to 7 games because I think both teams are evenly matched. And then you go to the final series in the West. And I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh, we covered all the series in the West. Getting ahead of myself right there. So yeah, the playoffs have been very exciting to watch. I've definitely watched the most games of these playoffs since I've had in a while. So I think most of these series are going to drag on. I don't see a series where it could go 5 games. I think the shortest one would be the Blackhawks and the Wild, just because I think the Blackhawks are a much better team. But the playoffs have definitely delivered so far this year. And now we're going to switch it over to some baseball talk. The Pirates recently they finished their road stand in Milwaukee for 3 games, and then this weekend just wrapped up a home series with the Washington Nationals. Milwaukee, Miller Park, it's been a house of horrors for the Pirates over the past 5 years. Their record in Miller Park is just an atrocious, and I mean one of the worst records for in a head-to-head matchup. Milwaukee has won 46 of the past 54 meetings in Miller Park. That is a horrible statistics that I know the Pirates, they always talk about it going into Milwaukee whenever the first road trip is for every season. It's something that I don't know, they just have bad luck there. It started off poorly with Rodriguez getting the first start in the series, and that's the worst park that he pitches in his career. I think his career ERA in Miller Park is over 4.5. Started off bad. I mean, he gave up 3 home runs in the game. The Pirates pitching staff as a whole in this game gave up 5 home runs. Pirates really never had a chance in this game. 5-1 after the first inning. And from there on out, the offense couldn't amount to much. They ended up losing the game 10-4. Even Giovanni Gallardo, who is a pretty decent hitting pitcher, he gets a home run off of Wandy Rodriguez. So definitely not the way you want to start off the year in Milwaukee. They tried to have better luck in the next game because they came out and they started slugging with the Brewers. Marte had a leadoff double, Kutch an RBI single, give the Pirates an early 1-0 lead. But of course that evaporates real quick. James McDonald pitching gives up 3 runs in the second inning. Brewers go up 3-1. Pirates end up tying it up. But, I mean, it was a back-and-forth slug-fest in the second game of the series, but Milwaukee ends up getting the win with a Unieski-Bentoncourt leadoff home run in the 7th. They end up adding 3 more to end the game, winning it 12-8, and it looked like the Pirates are going to get swept. I didn't really have much faith that they would win, at least salvage a game out of this road series, because up to this point, Milwaukee had 7 home runs now. The Pirates had 4 at this point. But still, I mean, you don't want to be going into Milwaukee thinking it's going to be a home run derby because their hitters are a lot more experienced than the Pirates, and they obviously have the power to back it up. But in this final game of the road series, they were going up against a pitcher who was making his 3rd career start in Hiram Burgos. It was a spot start for the Pirates. Originally supposed to be Jonathan Sanchez. Thankfully, he was designated for assignment earlier in the week, and I do not believe a team picked him up, so he's still technically on the Pirates roster, but I'm sure he will be outright released soon enough. Jomar Gomez, like the way he's been pitching of late. He's middle reliever. He did the job well for filling in, when Sanchez couldn't go long, and when McDonald had those few starts where he couldn't get past the 4th or 5th inning. Gomez, though, only able to go about 4 innings in this game. He also gave up a couple home runs, left the game when it was 3-1 in Milwaukee's favor, but thankfully on this day, the Pirates were able to answer back with more home runs. Michael McHenry got one to cut the lead to 3-2, and then I believe it was Pedro Alvarez who also added a home run in this game. Something that you need to start seeing more from him. He only has 5 on the year. He's got to get the bat going. Still batting under 200. I mean, he's not going to hit for average, but you at least want him to be above the Mendoza line. And the Pirates were able to get this win. They were down 4-2, score 4 unanswered runs. They win this game 6-4. At least take 1 out of 3 from the Brewers. I'm sure they'll take that. Jason Grilli got the save. Brian Morris gets his first win in the major leagues. And John Axford, who has had his troubles, as we all know, after being removed from the closer role in Milwaukee, he suffers the loss, giving up that home run to... Excuse me, not giving up the home run, but giving up those runs with Brandon Inge getting that hit and Ricky Weeks just kicking the ball into the outfield, scoring the winning run by Starling Marte. So after that 3-game road series, Pirates come back home to take on the Washington Nationals, and the Nationals, who a lot of people favored to win the World Series, or at least represent the National League in the World Series, really have been scuffling as of late, coming into the PNC Park with a .500 record. And in the first game of the series, you had A.J. Burnett going up and pitching how he normally pitches so far this regular season, another stellar outing. This time he actually went 7 innings deep, something that he has not done as of much lately, and that was something because the starters, they have just not been able to go deep in any of these ball games. So it was a good sign for him. He goes 7 innings, only giving up 5 hits and 1 run, striking out 9. He now leads the National League in strikeouts. He's only about 6 behind Yu Darvish for the Major League lead. Melanson came in, pitching the 8th inning, clean, 2 strikeouts, and then Jason Grilli getting his league-leading 12th save. Pirates win this game 3-1, and they did it with the long ball. Andrew McCutchen hit a home run in the bottom of the first. Washington tied it up at 1 in the 4th, but then there were no more runs to be had until the 5th when Jordy Mercer, who was recently called up because Neil Walker was put on the DL retroactive to last Saturday because of his hand being stepped on by Pete Kozma in the St. Louis series. So Mercer was brought up, and he hits a 2-run home run and gives the Pirates a 3-1 win. And it was a good way to start off the home series. But in yesterday's game, nationally televised on Fox, The Pirates had Jeff Locke going up against the phenom Steven Strasburg. But Strasburg has been anything but a phenom this year. Coming into the game against the Pirates, 1-4 with an ERA of 3.17. Has not won a start since the home opener, and he did not get the win in this game. He pitched rather well though. The only marks on his name in this game: gave up a 2-run homer to Starling Marte and another 2-run home run to Clint Barmas. But the Washington Nationals, I wouldn't say their offense bailed them out, because it was more of the fact that the Pirates pitching staff, their command, was so shaky in this game that it gave the Nationals life, and they were able to capitalize on it. Because in the game, Pirates pitchers gave up 6 walks, and they hit 3 batters, and then you pile that on with a couple errors by the defense. Because the Nationals, they stranded 11 runners. They were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. But because of the poor command by the Pirate pitchers, it gave the Nationals life. And the Nationals, they're still a good team. Do not be fooled by their record. They're going to capitalize if they get those extra opportunities. It was tied in the 9th inning, 4-4. Tony Watson hits Ryan Zimmerman, and then they get a sacrifice fly from Tyler Moore as Zimmerman he just beat the tag by Martin after the throw by Travis Snyder. And then the Pirates would go down in the 9th with Jordy Mercer striking out. So Jeff Locke, he pitched a good game, but I do disagree with Hurdle taking him out in this game. He took him out in the 5th inning. He only had 74 pitches. Hurdle said that he didn't like his delivery. It was inconsistent in this game, but they had a lefty coming up to the plate in Bryce Harper, and I think Locke's he's pretty good against lefties. And they brought a lefty in to replace him. So I guess Hurdle just didn't think Locke had enough in him to get through the inning, but I thought it was way too early. I still think Locke pitched a decent game. He went 5, only gave up 3 hits, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. His consecutive scoreless inning streak was snapped at 15, but I think Locke's starting to find his groove, and who knows, he might be able to hold on to his spot in that pitching rotation coming down the stretch here in the next month. And then the finale of the 3-game series just wrapped up about a half hour ago. The Pirates go down 6-2 in this game. Brian Morris gave up a huge 3-run homer to Tyler Moore that kind of put the nails in the coffin on the Pirates in the 8th inning. So they end up only winning 1 game out of this 3-game series. You hope that they can come back with Seattle, their first interleague series, coming in on Tuesday and Wednesday for a short 2-game series. The Pirates get the day off tomorrow. So I think it's a good thing that the Pirates had some rest now. Had a game off on Thursday, and now they had a day off tomorrow. So see if they can get back in the groove of things. I mean, it's going to happen when you have these young relievers in the game. I mean, their bullpen has been taxed. They've second now in the majors with over 111 innings already pitched by the bullpen. I mean, the starters only have a 150 innings pitched. So, I mean, when it's that close, when your bullpen's that close to your starting rotation, you know that's not a good sign. And you know that was a question mark coming into the season, was the Pirates' starting rotation. And you know what they've done, I guess you could say they've done decent. The only problem is they haven't gone deep into ball games. So we'll see how that shakes out, because help, I don't know if you want to call it help, but some new pitchers are bound to return, and that will start off with Francisco Liriano, who finished his rehab assignment in AAA, and in his last start for the Indianapolis Indians, he went 5 innings today, 7 hits, 4 runs, gave up a walk, 6 strikeouts. The big thing, though, was for his pitch count to be up. He finished with 98 pitches, so, I mean, that's a good number. And he will be starting in New York against the Mets, I believe, next Saturday afternoon. So that will definitely be a start I will keep my eye on, because you hope Liriano can just give you at least something a little bit better than Jonathan Sanchez. Because, I mean, Sanchez was just erratic. His control was bad. He walked too many batters. He was just amounted to nothing pretty much for this team. So he was only in there pretty much. He won a position by default. So you hope Liriano You know, he's definitely not the same pitcher that he was back in 2010, when he had that great year with the Minnesota Twins. But you just hope that he's an innings eater, because that's something they really, truly need right now. And it was scheduled that Charlie Morton would be making his way into the rotation, pretty much right behind Liriano, but he was recently pulled from his AAA start just a few nights ago because of right shoulder problems. So his timetable, his rehab assignment was supposed to end May 17th, but that could be pushed back now, so that'll be something to also keep your eye on. But the other pitcher that you really haven't heard much about him in the past week or so is Jeff Karstens. I do not know where he's going to fit into the equation for the Pirates, because if Locke continues to pitch the way he's been pitching, which has been pretty good, he's at least pitching better than I thought he ever would, I have a feeling that he might hold on to his spot. And if Karstens doesn't come back, say, until mid-June, Hurdle might not be tempted to take anyone out of the rotation unless they're really struggling. Karstens, he will be pitching in extended spring training starting on Wednesday, and then he'll make a start for Class A Bradenton on May 13th. I thought he would be the first one to be back of all the injured pitchers, but also he's had some setbacks as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the rotation shakes up. I think what the guarantees are is that Burnett and Rodriguez are definitely your top two. McDonald is still your three, and then Liriano would be your fourth, and then the fifth could be Morton, Locke, or even Karstens. Who knows? But definitely something to look for here on out. And now the two things I want to talk about the most in the past week. Two players in particular for the Pirates: Starling Marte and Clint Barmes. First, we're going to start off with Clint Barmes. He had another error recently in this National Series, and then he had another error in Milwaukee Series. He has been struggling as of late at the plate and even on the defensive side. And he was brought in particularly for the defense. Brought in because they thought he was a better fielder than Ronnie Cedeno. His offense, he's not going to be, a 300 hitter. But last year, his average panned out to about like 230. He started off slow, and this year he's starting off slow again. He's under 200. The offense is not there. And then fielding-wise, there's some easy throws that he should make that I know he can make. It's just they're offline. And, he had that little glimpse right there of what he can do on offense against the Nationals this past weekend, where he hit a 2-run home run in yesterday's game. But you need to see something more from Barmes on a consistent basis, because John McDonald is here, Brandon Ninja's here, and then Jordy Mercer, who they just called up, who is done pretty well at the AAA level, and he came up and hit a 2-run homer in his first game. So Barmes if he doesn't step it up, he could find himself, barely playing any games. And I know that's going to be hard for Pirate fans to hear, because they're going to be paying him so much money. He's getting paid about $5.5 million this year. But, Hurdle liked him. That's the reason why he brought him in here. But guess what? If he's not producing and he's hurting your team, then you have to sit him on the bench and just let him cool off, because you can't play him if he's struggling like this. So you have Mercer, give him some time, because right now he's the best offensive position that they have at the shortstop. So we'll see where it goes from there. But Barmes, I'm not going to count him out yet, although I know a lot of fans are getting really thin with him, and I don't know, it's just going to be a little interesting to see how Hurdle will handle that situation if it comes to where he is really, really hurting the team offensively and defensively. Now, the other player, Starling Marte. He has impressed me this year. The one thing I saw from him at the end of last year, he grew very impatient at the plate, swinging at a lot of balls that were outside of the strike zone, and that is something he has not done so far early on this month. He led all Major League hitters with batting average in the first inning, batting over 600, and way above and beyond anyone. I believe the second place batting average for the first inning was in the 300s. So that just goes to show you how well Starling Marte is doing at the leadoff position. And that was one of the holes the Pirates needed to fill this year. Because the past 2 years, they tried Presley, they tried Tabata, McCutchen was there in his first year and half of his second year. Marte is finally proving that he can play in the big leagues. Obviously, there's still much for him to learn, but you're starting to see him live up to his potential. And he was in the top 10 in the National League in hits, top 10 in batting. So you hope that his hot play can continue, but there's going to be some slumps along the way because you can't play like that a full 6 months. But, the way it is, I would think that, yes, he deserves, after the first month of the season, to be in the All-Star game, but obviously he has to back that up with a strong May and a strong June. But I think a lot of fans and a lot of other teams are noticing Marte and showing that the Pirates, hey, they have one of the best 1-2 tandems in the outfield with Marte and McCutchen. Because, yes, McCutchen has the power, and Marte is starting to show that power with 6 home runs. But guess what? Marte also has one of the best arms in the game. So definitely looking forward to seeing him grow and mature into a proven offensive player for the Pirates in the years to come. And now, with our final topic of the show, we're going to be talking a little bit about the NBA playoffs. I haven't been able to see a lot of the games so far because I've been, watching Pirates, other baseball games, and then with the hockey playoffs starting as well. But we're going to do a recap of the series. The Miami Heat, a quick 4-game sweep of the Milwaukee Bucks. There was no surprise there. The Bucks played them tough in a few games, but the Heat were just too strong. With the tandem of LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, no match for Milwaukee. The Bulls and the Nets, a classic 7-game series. The Bulls were up in the series 3-1. They never went to a Game 7 when they had a 3-1 series lead in their history, but it went to Game 7 back in Brooklyn, and I thought the Bulls had no chance. Luol Deng was out with the flu. Kirk Heinrich banged up. A lot of their backups were playing. But somehow, the Bulls found a way to win. Joakim Noah had a huge performance for them. Nate Robinson stepped it up even more. He's their energy guy. The Bulls were able to win the game 99-93, and now they will have an Eastern Conference semifinal matchup with the Miami Heat, and I think that has a chance to be a classic series. And, a lot of people now are talking, oh, will Derrick Rose come back because, it's against the Miami Heat, and boy, if he came back against them, that could change the whole tide of that series, and who knows, maybe Chicago will be favored to win the series if Rose comes back, but you don't know how healthy he's actually going to be. With the other series in the East, the Pacers defeat the Hawks 4-2. The Hawks won both their games at home. They really couldn't do much on the road. And then in the other series, the Knicks finally won a playoff series for the first time in over a decade, defeating the Boston Celtics 4-2. And Carmelo Anthony finally advances past the first round for only the second time in his career. So I think the Knicks and the Pacers, both teams have volley positions with being the second best team in the Eastern Conference this year. So we're going to find out who is the second best team to the Heat. And I think, the winner of the series, they're going to be ready. I think the winner of the series has a chance to sneak into the NBA Finals. Ultimately, I think the Knicks, the matchup favors the Knicks because they have a deeper bench and the more experience, but I think it's going to be a good game, and ultimately it'll come down to Carmelo Anthony and how he plays and performs. And in the West, the favorite that was going to represent them in the NBA Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Well, they lose Russell Westbrook, who will be out now for the remainder of the playoffs. They were able to stave off a young, energized Houston Rocket team led by James Harden to win the series 4-2. Kevin Durant, he's going to have to carry a much more load on his shoulders. Kevin Martin is going to have to step up the acquisition. Pretty much they want him to fill in for Harden. I don't think he has done that, but, they're going to need him to step up and perform because their second series, the Western Conference semifinals, started today. They took on the Memphis Grizzlies, who beat the Clippers. I was actually surprised because the Clippers, coming into the playoffs, I thought they were going to be a team that could make a run for the finals. But with the Blake Griffin injury, his high ankle sprain, the other players, DeAndre Jordan, Matt Barnes, and even Chauncey Billups, they just did not show up in this series. The Grizzlies, they were much more physical with their bigs down low, and Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph, just too much for the Clippers to handle. And even though you have Chris Paul, who's one of the best point guards in the game, they just couldn't find a way to get it done. They lose that series in 6 games. And the Grizzlies going up against the Thunder, I think either team can win this. Obviously, if the Thunder had Westbrook, I would say that they would win this game. or win this series in 6 or 7 games. But, the Grizzlies know now, okay, the Thunder are without one of their best players. So, we got to be aggressive and, beat them down low and bruise them, because Derek Fisher's stepping in now for Russell Westbrook. And don't get me wrong, Derek Fisher's a good point guard, but, he's up there in age, and you just don't know how much he's going to have in his legs if this series extends to 6 or 7 games. And then with the other 2 series, you had the Spurs going up against the Lakers. Kobe Bryant being out. I thought maybe the Lakers could win a game, maybe possibly 2, but they get swept, pretty much embarrassed by the Spurs. Manu Ginobili has a huge series, as well as Tony Parker. The Spurs now look like they were the favorite to win the West. They go up now against the Golden State Warriors, who has been the surprise team so far in these playoffs. Going up against the Nuggets, the Nuggets were the best team, I think, in the NBA at home. And they were able to win one of the games in Denver. They get the Game 6 clinching series win in Golden State. Stephen Curry, who could, right now, first round, he's the MVP of the NBA playoffs. Even without David Lee playing, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, they are sharpshooters. They took it to the Nuggets after Mark Jackson, the head coach of the Warriors, called the Nuggets play in games 4 and 5, dirty, hard, saying that, I'm opposed to cheap shots. He was ultimately fined for what he had to say about, the officiating and the way the Nuggets were playing. But guess what? Behind the Warriors crowd, they were not going to lose that game. They were not going to lose Game 6. They ended up beating the Nuggets. And now, you know what? With the Spurs, I think that's going to be a fun series, because the Warriors are going to want to go up and down. The Spurs are going to want to kind of play it slow, because they have a lot of veterans on that team. So, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting series, to say the least. But if I had to give my predictions right now, I would say it would be the Spurs against the Grizzlies. And then, although I'm a huge fan of the Bulls, I don't think they're going to have enough to beat the Heat. So, I think it would be the Heat versus the Knicks. So, I think that would shape out. I think these semifinals are going to be pretty fun to see. And I think the series, I think maybe all the series could go 6 or 7 games. And just as another side note to finish off the show, I don't really talk that much about boxing, just because it's not as popular as it once was. But Floyd Mayweather was fighting Robert Guerrero last night, and Floyd Mayweather, he's pretty much the only guy that I would have any interest in following in boxing nowadays. He was able to beat Guerrero by unanimous decision to continue his streak, being undefeated now. And he said that he wants to go home, take some time off, discuss with his agents and his family, figure out when or if his next fight will be against who. He said possibly in September it would be his next fight, but I guess it's safe to say that we're never going to see the fight between him and Manny Pacquiao, because a lot of people said that would be a dream matchup, but I think it's safe to say, it's been 2 years in the making and nothing's even come close. So it's disappointing, because I remember growing up, boxing days, seeing Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, all those fighters. And even in the heavyweight division, there's not too many people left that really attract the big names that will get people to watch. Klitschko's one of them, but just not enough, I think, cachet in boxing to make it one of the top sports again, like it was in the 80s and 90s. But that'll do it though for today's show. Got into a lot of good stuff. Next week's show should be even better. Could be possibly talking about the end of the first round series between the Penguins and Islanders. One team could have it wrapped up. Obviously, that would be the Penguins if that happened. But who knows? We could be talking about a Game 6 or a Game 7 possibly. The Pirates, they're going to have the 2-game short homestand with the Mariners, and then they're going to be going on the road for 4 in New York. Talk about some Steeler news, if any developments happen there, with how the draft picks perform in rookie camp. And then talk some more about some NBA playoffs and any other exciting news happening in the sports world today. So, signing off, I'm Michael Kravetz, and you just listened to the Sports Wrap.